It was a fun memory.
Check.
Oh, here I go, yeah, this old game. I sang the notes, words never came. Try and try and try again, I do. Throw myself against the walls, I'd rather take the hit than fall and know that I gave it my all, it's true. On and on, I call the muse, words sing all love and lose. Rather try and fail and choose to live these goddamn tic-tac grooves. So step, baby, step, you move just like the rest until you roll, honey, roll. Do what you do best, baby, step. Keep your feet beneath you while you walk. More than talk now. Oh, I know how tall I am. Your measurements can't keep me in the clay. I'm made from molds again into. I get taller every day. Oh, I get taller every day. I don't know, but I'll tell you this. I wear my makeup lowercase. Put on my tall click-clack shoes. A girl, she's goddamn tic-tac blues. So step, baby, step. You move just like the rest until you roll, honey, roll. Do what you do best, baby, step. Keep your feet beneath you while you walk. One talk now. And I gotta keep the beat. Hold to your feet, man, let 'em take you. And I gotta keep the beat. Always leaving one more. Put on my top, pick that shoes, crush the goddamn tic-tac blues. Baby, step, you move just like the rest until you roll, honey, roll. Do what you do best, baby, step. Keep your feet beneath you while you walk. So step, baby, step. You move just like the rest until you roll, honey, roll. Do what you do best, baby, step. Keep your feet beneath you while you walk. It's in the way, it's in the way, it's in the way that you talk now. So pour me a drink, sir. Oh, you better make it strong. 'Cause I'm on the brink, sir. And I've done wrong. I entered a bargain and I got burned. So tell me, what would you do, sir, if the table were turned? So can I get a whiskey? But can I get a witness Can I get a pardon for all of my sins? Baby, I have been living like an outlaw, living like a stranger in my own skin. The road is long now, said the flood's gonna run, but you better be strong now, because the judgment will come. So can I get a whiskey? Can I get a witness? Can I get a pardon for all of my sins? Baby, I have been living like an outlaw, living like a stranger in my own skin. Don't ask me why now, don't ask how I know, 'cause I gotta fly now, I gotta go. Oh, I'm searching in the sky now, searching for my rose. I'm searching for an angel to show me where to go.
Awesome. Welcome everybody. Well, I guess we'll just kind of intro right now for a couple minutes, and we'll wait for a couple more people to trickle in. So if you just want to ask these questions in the chat, what does activism mean to you? And are you working on any action projects in your school and community? We would love to hear what everybody's doing right now. So our meeting today is titled Taking Action. We're going to be focusing on all the different ways that we can take environmental and conservation action in Alberta and BC. So let's see if we've got anything in the chat. Sometimes it takes a little bit to come through. All right, while we wait for that, Alex, do you want to flip to the next slide? Okay, just some Zoom etiquette again. We're gonna remind ourselves about this. Keep your microphone off, everybody's already done that, unless you're asking a question, which is great. We're recording this, so please turn off your cameras and again, your microphone, unless you're fine with that and you want to ask a question. 3, rename yourself to what it says on the screen there. 4, we have a zero tolerance chat. So of course it's great to ask questions and comment, but just don't be stupid. And to ask a question to any of our presenters, we'll have a Q&A time at the end. And you can also just type in a question during the presentation. Okay.
And Ben, we did have just one comment. It was from Adam Robb to everybody. It's tricky, but activism is knowledge in practice, knowledge plus work. Thanks for sharing, great. Adam Robb from Central Memorial.
Okay, next slide, Alex. Okay, so if Alex is here, and he's listening to me, but he's our technical director, student technical director, and he is going to be presenting our land acknowledgement. Every meeting, a different youth director or youth organizer has been doing a land acknowledgement. So, Alex, if you can.
I am here. Can you guys hear me? Sorry, can you guys hear me, Ben?
Yes, we can.
Perfect. Okay, give me half a second.
while we wait for Alex, if anybody knows what treaty land or nation that they're joining from, feel free to put that in the chat as well.
And we just had one other comment from Ava Vanderbeek. Yes, I also think that a huge part of activism is connection.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, connection to the land and, connection to other people too, to what you're doing, I guess. You gotta have a passion for it. So.
Hey, so can everybody hear me? Is everyone
Yep, you're good to go, Alex.
Awesome, perfect. Thanks so much, guys. So, bonjour, okay, abotage, doneste, hello everyone. My name's Alexander from Canadian Rockies Youth Network, and I'm so excited to welcome you all to this workshop. However, before we get started, I think it's very important that we take a moment not just to acknowledge the land we're gathering virtually on, but to really think about what this place means, both to us and to all those who came before us. Today's workshop is about the various stakeholders involved in conservation and management of the Canadian Rockies. There are many groups that constitute stakeholders when we talk about these decisions. However, I believe that we really need to come together for these discussions and put special emphasis on the role that Indigenous people play as stakeholders in these spaces. I'm sure by now you've all heard about how the Canadian Rockies in the traditional treaty territory of Indigenous people for thousands of years. But I think we need to take a moment to really step back and understand what it means and let the significance of this settle in. Throughout Turtle Island, North America, settlers and Indigenous people agreed to share the land we occupied through treaties. And though many of these treaties have been broken and injustices have occurred, today, despite this, these people have persevered and continue to share our relationship with the land with us. I know this has been mentioned in almost every workshop, but I want to take a moment to revisit a story from our first Canadian Rockies Youth Summit. At that, sorry guys, that's 1 second. I had a script that's here was scrolling way too fast to read it. Okay. So on one of the first summits, we got to visit the Marbley Homestead in Jasper National Park. This spot is now used for hiking and recreation. However, it used to be where Métis' family once lived and hunted before they were forcibly evicted during the creation of the park. This was a strong reminder that historically we have not acknowledged the role Indigenous people play as stakeholders in these parks. And we're only beginning to do that today. Part of acknowledging this role is acknowledging the land and the agreements our ancestors have made. By honoring our agreements and honoring the land that gives us life and well-being, we move closer towards trying to reconcile and supporting Indigenous voice in these types of decisions. Today, my colleagues and I are gathered here speaking to you from Treaty 7 territory. A spot where the Blackfoot Confederacy of the Siksika, Kainai, Connie Nations, the Stoney Nakoda Nation, Tsuut'ina Nation, the Métis Nation of Alberta Region 3 have lived for thousands of years, along with the settlers of Western Canada. We coexist within the land that we all share, love, and treasure. We'd like to take a moment to acknowledge this land and these agreements. And we'd encourage you to do the same with the land that you're currently joining us from and the agreements that exist in that place. So thank you guys so much, and let's get started, I guess. That worked. Hopefully you guys can all hear me and stuff. I'm sorry if there's any technical problems. That's great. Thank you. I have this weird echo going on in my headset, so I can't really hear you super well. But
cool. Yeah, so if you could just put us back to the presentation slides. Thank you again. That's amazing. So before we start the workshop, I would also like to plug our summit. It goes from May 12th to 14th. On the 12th, it's in the evening, and we have a big campfire benefit concert. And it's gonna be really fun. We have student and adults, presenters and artists from all across Alberta and Canada who are gonna present. If you were here at the start of the workshop, you heard music from one of our keynote musicians, Amelie Patterson. And you can see the rest of our agenda online. On the May 13th and 14th, we have many different outdoor activities, panels, debates. It's gonna be awesome. So if you can get to
Alex, please mute. If anybody isn't muted right now, if you can take a second to mute yourself, we'd greatly appreciate that.
Yeah, Mallory, I think also if you're the host, you can also mute it.
Yeah, I just did.
No problem. Cool. Yeah, so Alex, if you could flip 2 pages, I believe now. So a quick overview of today, we're looking at all different sorts of activism. Next slide again, Alex. We're gonna be looking at specifically 4 types of activism from 5 different people. Alex, you can skip another one. Sorry, I didn't see this slide. Yeah, so action projects, I'll talk a little bit about them really quickly. So we kind of all know what action projects are, but I'm just going to add here that they can be as general or specific as you'd like. It's really up to you to decide kind of where your passions lay and what action projects you want to pick up. And this is really important. When I started my project, I was interested in policy-based activism, but it could be simply woodworking or interest for a specific case study that inspires you to take action in the form of a project. You can go next slide, Alex. Alex, next slide, please.
Next slide, Alex.
So, I guess I'll just talk while he's figuring that out. Yeah, so you can, I guess in the next slide, I just have a big list of all these different sorts of action projects I've seen in my class before. You can see some classic ones like gardening, but you can even see some newer ones that I haven't really seen before, like starting a thrift store in our school, or just even going outside to take time to connect with the land.
Is this just like a random thing? Okay, thank God. I thought it was in the
Let's go swipe.
Okay, they're good. Okay, so yeah, all different sorts of action projects over the course of today and the summit. We're hoping to get you guys to engage with at least one of these ideas so you can pick up an action project at your own place. So without further ado, I'm going to present our first activism presentation. So we have a duo joining us. We have Tim Johnson and Jarrett, 2 young men. I'll give a quick bio to them. Tim Johnson is a program associate from the Yellowstone to Yukon Conservation Initiative. He's worked with the Stony Nakoda Audiovisual Club to create a video to raise awareness for wildlife crossings. Additionally, he's worked with Y2Y to advocate for more sustainable highways. And when he has extra time, he works with other projects related to the stewardship of Kananaskis country. And Jarrett, 2 young men, is the founder of the Stony Nakoda Audiovisual Club. He's a filmer and musician from Morley, Alberta, who believes in sharing stories through art. Also, his films have been shown throughout Canada. So those 2 are going to present on wildlife connectivity activism. Take it away, Tim.
Great, thanks, Ben. Hey, everybody. Thanks for being here today and for the opportunity for Y2Y to be part of this. So I'm just going to share my screen here. I've just got a few slides to share about Y2Y's work and what we do related to connectivity and some of the challenges and obstacles to wildlife connectivity. So can everybody see that okay?
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Yeah, so as Ben mentioned, I work with the Alberta team at Y2Y. I'm based here in Canmore on Treaty 7 land. And today I'll be talking mostly about our connectivity work and some of the challenges and solutions related to wildlife movement that we look at in the Y2Y region. We're a very large landscape organization. Y2Y was started nearly 30 years ago, and our main goal is to connect and protect habitat across a 3,200 kilometer length stretch of what's one of the most intact mountain ecosystems in the world. It's a critical area for wildlife. It's the traditional lands of over 30 indigenous groups. It supplies drinking water for over 15 million people. And so our mission in this landscape is to try to connect and protect habitat from Yellowstone National Park in Wyoming all the way up to Canada's Yukon so that people and nature can thrive. When we talk about the importance of this region, it still hosts nearly the full range of species that existed in the Mountain West before settler arrival. And one of the key species that we look at in this landscape are grizzly bears. Connectivity is important because small isolated populations of wildlife can go extinct. And when we look at grizzly bears, we often think of them as an umbrella species. It's a bit of a concept, but the gist of it is that if you can protect grizzly bears, which have such a wide-ranging need in terms of habitat and space, if you can protect areas where grizzlies can exist, generally you're going to see dozens of other species thriving and surviving as well too. So that's what we mean when we talk about grizzlies as an umbrella species. And it's an animal that used to range quite widely through North America, well out into the prairies. But by 1922, much of that range had been shrunk to very small populations. And you can see a lot of those are islands. So these are disconnected areas of habitat. And our work in connectivity aims to connect these landscapes to allow grizzlies to roam. There are species that need a lot of space in order to survive and to find mates and continue their existence. So it's thought that if we can restore and protect connectivity for grizzlies, then we're going to help a host of other species as well too. So part of my work at Y2Y is looking at threats to connectivity and how to improve them. So I'm just going to close the door here for a sec. I'll be right back. Sorry about that, small dog break. So one of the biggest barriers to wildlife movement and connectivity are roads. In Alberta here, 50% of reported accidents on roads are from collisions with wildlife, and it results in an average of 5 human fatalities every year. And it's also a really big cost to society. It costs us as humans over $280 million a year in terms of insurance, health claims. So it's a really big problem. And it's the one that does have solutions though. And some of those solutions are best known and best seen in Banff National Park. Now in Banff, let's see here, there we go. In Banff, crossings have been shown to work, both to the benefit of humans and wildlife. If we can reduce collisions, not only are we allowing wildlife to roam and survive, but we're also reducing the risk to humans from colliding with these animals. So in Banff, there's 6 overpasses and over 35 underpasses, which connected with the fencing that runs along the Trans-Canada Highway has reduced wildlife vehicle collisions by up to 96%. That's for deer and elk, which are the most common animals hit. And these crossings have helped over 200,000 individuals cross a very busy highway. And so that's over 200,000 times that an animal didn't have to risk crossing the Trans-Canada and was able to move and find space and find mates on either side of the highway. So when we look at Banff, it's really a model and a success story. And the Bow Valley is one of the most significant wildlife corridors in North America. And this value does not just end at the park gates. So a lot of our work today is on trying to get more crossings outside of the national park. And when we think about the problem of wildlife vehicle collisions, we're often applying a human lens to it. But what about wildlife? What's it like for an animal that's trying to cross an increasingly busy Trans-Canada Highway here? And so this is where Y2Y was really, really excited to be able to partner with the Nakota AV Club. And the result is an amazing perspective on the issue of roads and wildlife and the landscape from the lens of the wildlife themselves. So it was a really neat opportunity to apply a very different focus and a different way of thinking about the problem of human wildlife collisions. I think the link to the Nakota AV Club's animation was sent out and it's available too if you haven't checked it out yet. It's a really cool project. And there's also a neat making of documentary. So that about wraps it up for me. I guess we'll turn it over to Jarrett now, who can talk a little bit more about the project. Thanks. I'll stop sharing.
Thanks, Tim. Yeah, I'm just like figuring out what to do here. Like I never been a host on a computer before, like ever. And so I might screw up here. I don't know, because I never actually used this before. I know I wasn't told about it. But anyway, I'll do my best. Yes, I'm Jared Youngman, and I'm Nakota AV Club, the co-founder. And I actually speak Stony fluently, and my second language is English. Sometimes my pronunciation is so bad, but in our Stony way, we don't really address that. That's not important to us because our important language is Stony. Because we always love the way we hear every. It feels like comfort to us when we speak our own language, and it's incredible how we actually hear them every time. And yes, I actually done a bunch of films, and I actually went through lot of things through filming. And so, yes. And so this film that we actually did was with Y2Y. I did not expect that we gonna be having important connection with other people, and I thought that was a really important thing because having a relationship is the most important thing, and I do want to share more about that. And so I guess I'll show the video here. And
Jarrett, we've already shared the video link with everybody to watch ahead of time, or they'll be able to watch it after. Unfortunately, the videos don't stream very well over Zoom, so
okay.
maybe we can get into the discussion and how we connect to the land.
Okay, awesome. That's great because I wasn't sure what's going on because it just popped in that I'm the host now or something. I'm like, okay, I guess so. Yeah, and so yes, so like I said about relationship is that since the dawn of my of time of my people have been a relation with the land. Being a relation is like being a family. If you think about your family, you are people that you are very close to and others that you are less close to, but still are family. Family members should treat each other others with respect. Then don't if you don't respect your family, uh, or if they don't respect you, it throws like off the balance in a family. So the member impacts another. So that's why it's always such a problem having a relationship and bad relationship. That's always a thing to us that is very important to us. So today it's harder to be in a relation because we all have a different relationship with the land that we did long ago. But our teachings come from the land, and if our chose to be relation with the land, we can learn again. Yes, that's one of the important things. We can learn again. They are not lost, and they can never be lost or taken as long as we can spend time with the land, because that's just the thing that we actually do. We're the protectors of the land. We're protectors of the waters. We're actually protectors of animals. We are that people that we've been doing that for over years, a millennium or forever. We've been doing that like for a long time. So I'll ask you a question. So what are the ways that you think people can be relation with the land? And so maybe we can chat about that. What do you think? Does anybody actually would want to answer that in a way, or maybe on the chat?
So Jared, I think that we'll put your breakaway questions into some breakaway rooms, and we'll set up some breakaway rooms. So Alex, if you want to turn to the next slide. Awesome. So Jared's breakaway questions were, what are some ways you can relate to the land? How can you have a relationship with the land? And what do you like most about the land, the trees, the mountains, the water, the grass, and why? So we are going to have 5 minutes to discuss those questions in your breakaway rooms. And for members of the summit team that are joining us, 1 will be Ava, 2 will be Liam, 3 will be Alex, 4 will be Lucas, and 5 will be Alex. So 5 minutes to discuss those questions.
Yeah, awesome. Should I still go?
Hey guys,
Hello.
what's up?
Check, check. 1, 2, 3. Can you guys hear me? Hi everybody on the live stream. Sorry we've been having some technical stuff going on. It's been a bit chaotic. We're in breakout rooms right now, but we'll be jumping back in like 3 minutes. So if you guys just hang on and listen to some awesome music, we'll send you back into our main Zoom session soon. Sorry about this being a bit out of the blue chaotic. I'll see you guys later. Bye.
Pour me a drink, son. Oh, you better make it strong. 'Cause I'm on the brink, sir. Yeah, but I done wrong. Ask me once again if I'm alive. I told it to you true. It's all I know to do. Heard it as it's coming down the wire. Something in your voice. So I made the choice to come clean. Ask me if I care, you know I do. Held steady through the fighting. I held on for the lightning. So back and forth I go. If you called, I would be there. You know I would be there for you. So call anytime. You can call anytime. Lonely is as lonely was. Darkness came and drunken dust. Everything I do for you. Knowing doesn't change a thing. Going back ain't worth the pain. Everything I said, you knew it too. Ask me where I've been away. I know I left you high and dry, hurting hard, oh how could I? So don't ask me why I came for you. And oh, despite the vitriol, I'll always come when you call my name.
So we just got out of breakout rooms. Does anybody, if you want to add anything, just type it into the chat, or you can turn your mic on and we can just have a discussion. What are some ways you relate to the land?
Yeah,
I
think,
sorry.
Amanda, you wanted to say something, then you got cut off. Is there anything that you want to say or that you want to talk here?
I guess I just wanted to say that when I'm out in nature, like for me, like I'm thinking of this one tree I have that I like to climb, and when I'm up it, I feel safe. I guess it's just sort of finding the connection with, like the emotional connection with the land as well.
Yeah, that's really good. That's really good. I think that's the whole thing, that the land is the most important thing. That how we actually really connected. Some people actually really miss that interpret. Now we actually have Ogahnihne. That's why we call it Ogahnihne Fun. Everybody actually really look at them now these days because we don't see the nature of the true thing, what's happening. So it's very important for us to actually look at them now. It's very important to actually see the nature that what is in front of us every day. So let me ask you, what do you guys see right now from your window? That's what I want to ask too. What do you guys see? Like, do you guys see, what kind of lands do you guys see? Mine, I see my tree, I see my grass, and I see I think there's a fence there. I'm not sure, but I don't want to talk about that. So those kind of things is very important to us to look at them every day. And so we can actually talk about that too. Yeah, it's squirrels. Yeah, I like, yeah, I think there's a squirrel around, but I'm not sure.
I see a little creek in my backyard along with lots of trees, grass. Does anybody else want to share what they see? Lucas, Ava, Adam, Rob.
I mean, I see well, my lawn and a couple of bare trees, but also just like right behind my house, not where my window is right now, is the little park, as I call it, and it's kind of the green space where I grew up.
Wonderful. Well, we do have to keep things moving. So thank you so much, Ishnish, Jarrett. Thank you for joining us. That was Jarrett and Tim Johnson talking about connecting and being a storyteller of the land. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, Ben's going to introduce our second speaker.
Yeah. So it looks like most of the people are back here now, so that's great. So next up, we have Becky. Becky is, I guess, a really big friend of the network. She was kind of a driving force between last year's summit. So I'll tell you a little bit about her. Does anybody, can I just see with reactions, has anybody heard of CPAWS? Can you like put a little thumbs up?
Just react. So those little dots, do a thumbs up, do a party symbol.
Great, yeah, I see a lot of them. CPAWS is the Canadian Parks and Wilderness Society. You may have seen a lot of them with the Defend Alberta Parks movement that's been happening over the last year. And Becky's kind of been at the head of that. Becky has also studied politics and community organization at the University of Alberta. And she's very passionate about Alberta's landscape and the people who live close to it. So welcome, Becky, to the workshop, and thank you for coming.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. Excited to be back. I cannot share screen while other participants are sharing. So I do have slides. So whoever is sharing, please stop and I can do that.
You should be good to go, Becky.
Yeah, great, thank you. So there we go. Okay, so like Ben said, and thanks so much for having me. I'm going to talk about the Defend Alberta Parks campaign today. So hopefully in the last year or so, you've seen one of these lawn signs somewhere. So I'm going to explain a little bit more about what was that all about, if you don't know it in detail. And kind of some of the logic and strategy behind it. And I do just want to acknowledge, I really appreciate Alex's land acknowledgement off the top. And I do want to acknowledge that both national and provincial parks have been established on the displacement of Indigenous people across the country, and Alberta is no exception. So while, you know, parks have a problematic history, it's really important that, you know, we do protect them as a public good and rebuild them better and make sure that privatization and industry doesn't encroach on them, which is what this campaign was about. So yeah, Ben introduced what CPAWS is. So this campaign was a joint campaign between CPAWS Southern Alberta, which is where I work in the Southern Alberta region, our Northern Alberta chapter, and the Alberta Environment Network. We definitely all carried equal weight of the load there. So what was the problem? Why did we start the Defend Alberta Parks campaign? So last February, was it? Yeah, it was like the end of February in 2020. The government announced that they would be removing 164 parks from the system and closing another 20. And at the time, that number accounted for a third of the parks within the system. And lots of these parks were smaller provincial recreation areas, which are frequently parking lots or they're staging areas, but they're still really important because they're that way that we like safely and responsibly recreate. And lots of people, you know, outhouses, parking, garbage cans, garbage collection, that's really important to making sure people are responsibly behaving on the landscape. And so closing a third of these was really problematic. The closure of privatization, this plan also included the closure or privatization of over 4,000 campsites. And as you know, 2020 was probably a really bad year to limit the outdoor recreation options for people, because what else did we have to do? Not much. So this is a map that we put together. It showed what areas were the most impacted by campground closures and privatizations. As you can see, Kananaskis accounts for a huge number of them that were planned to be privatized. So closed areas would have been closed to the public. So those 20 campgrounds that they were, or 20 parks and campgrounds they were closing, those were going to be closed to the public outright. And parks that were removed from the park system would lose their protected area status. So when we were getting a lot of pushback from the government on this, they were saying, no, they'll still remain public. But it's really important to remember that a public land is not the same as a protected area. So recategorizing protected areas to public lands removes their protected status. This opens the sites to industrial development and other environmentally risky activities. So the government was promising to keep them protected as public land, but that didn't discount a number of industrial activities that could happen. So here's a table that kind of explains what could happen on protected areas and what could happen on public land. And as you see, there's a lot of industrial activity that happens on public land, that it is important to save places from these kinds of activities and make sure that we're putting land aside that is protected. So yeah, all these activities include mining, surface mineral extraction like gravel pits, commercial forestry, new oil and gas development, unrestricted motorized access, motorized random camping, new roads, all this stuff. Lots of pressure that's already on our land in so many other ways that it is important to protect it. So another thing, another aspect of this was a lot of these sites would be privatized. So that means that the government would no longer be the manager of them. And that was for the 164 sites. They were considering if some of these facilities could stay open under privatization. And this is problematic because it's unclear what level or standards that private managers are being held to. They could start charging fees and areas become even more inaccessible. And it's really important for us to have a really strong publicly managed park system. And a key feature of that, why this was such a problem, I think, for Albertans, is that there was no consultation. So even though the government has facilitated public consultation before, and even though it was recommended that they undertake a consultation in this case, they chose not to. And I think that's what drove a lot of the backlash, is they were, you know, Albertans were in a pandemic year where we had limited options, and then we're being told 164 park sites are going to be removed from the park system. It didn't sit well with folks. And there was also very little visitor data or ecological data. There didn't seem to be no rationale behind what park sites they were deciding to remove. It was very random. So we were arguing that a comprehensive consultation had to take place before they made this decision. And of course they did not. So then that leads us to Defend Alberta Parks. So that happened in February, and you know, a lot of this required us working behind the scenes to learn more about the government's decision and understand what the policy impacts were. But we really felt that they weren't moving on it. They made their decision and they weren't interested in hearing anything. So we started thinking about what were creative ways that we could elevate the message that Albertans were not happy with this decision. So the lawn signs that you've hopefully seen, they're really more than just a lawn sign. When we were considering this campaign, you have to consider who made the decision and, you know, what is their best interest? What is the thing, what is their self-interest? What are they interested in preserving? And for most politicians, it's getting elected again. That's their highest priority, right? So if you want a politician to move on one of your issues, you have to convince them that they will be voted out of office as a result of this decision. You have to tell them just how many people disagree with them. And, you know, really tweeting about it or posting it on Facebook, that is an indicator, but it's easy for them to wave that off and say, oh, nobody really cares. Most people agree with this, it's fine. So our lawn sign campaign really had two goals behind it. One was to spread the word. And so if people were unaware of this problem, the lawn sign was a good way for neighbors to spark conversation with other neighbors, for people to see it on their neighbor's lawn and be like, oh, other people feel like me. I should make sure I take a stand. That was one purpose. And then the other purpose of it was really, we wanted to make sure that people were writing their MLAs about this and making sure that they were communicating to the government that they were unhappy with this decision. So we made sure, and I could say that there was probably at least one letter sent to MLAs for every lawn sign we distributed. So this was our total metrics at the end of and the campaign is still ongoing, but this is the last update that I've looked at the system, is we distributed 21,000 lawn signs across the province. We've had over 25,000 letters sent about this issue, and we mobilized 1,400 volunteers, which is a lot of people and a lot of logistics. This is a graph. So we kicked it off in mid-August, and this is how it kind of just grew over time. And as you can see, in November, December, it's getting pretty high there. We're getting a lot of lawn signs out. And this is the distribution across the province. So we started this in Calgary because, just logistically, it was a lot easier to focus on one city and be able to get them out. And we do know that, Calgary is probably going to be where most of the dramatic races play out in the next election. So we wanted really to emphasize to the government that Calgarians really care about parks. So we started in Calgary, but then we expanded across the province to Canmore, to Banff. I think we got some out in Jasper, lots of folks in Red Deer and Camrose. Lethbridge was really excited about it too. So we really had good representation across the province. This is a timeline of events from February. I might just skip through them though. From February to December, when the government announced that they were not closing or delisting any provincial parks. And a lot of folks said, and you can see in this article that I've screenshotted here, that this was really one of the first major policy defeats of this government. And I'm really happy to say that we could facilitate that for Albertans to have a win on something they really care about. So in December, it was December 22nd, they announced that they would not be removing any parks from the park system. They did undertake a bit of gaslighting and said that we never said we were going to do that anyways. You guys are all lying, but they did back off of the plan at the end of the day, and the parks will remain in the park system. They're still trying to find private managers for them, but it's unclear how many partnerships they've actually been able to secure. But at the very least, if they can't secure a partnership for a park, it will remain in the public park system, which is really important to us. And what we've learned from this and looking forward, we know that the government has indicated that they want to undertake a rehaul of all the parks and public land legislation, which is a little scary when we've seen, their feelings towards it in the past year or so. But what I think is really important is that we've shown both ourselves, our community, and the government that we have a really strong group of Albertans who are ready to hit the ground running, hit the streets, volunteer, call their MLAs, because they care about parks and they care about public land. And we just see how motivated people are. And I hope that that has left an impression on the government if they choose to do anything to the parks legislation again. Hopefully it makes them think twice about it. So my discussion question, and yeah, feel free, I think there might be questions coming up and I can stick around to address those. But my discussion question was, most of you tuning in, you're probably under voting age. And I know that when I was under voting age, that was a major source of angst for myself, that I couldn't participate in the political process. But of course, there are many ways to participate, lawn signs being just one of them. So my question is, when voting isn't an option, what are creative and alternative ways to communicate to the government how you feel about a policy? So like, if you weren't going to do a lawn sign, what's something else that you would do that would tell the government you either agree or disagree with them? That's my question. And I will stop
Awesome.
sharing.
Thank you so much, Becky. So Alex, I'll get you to pop up our slides there just so everyone can take a look at Becky's question again. Thank you so much for your presentation, Becky. That was super illuminating. We know that we had a lawn sign, so. We do have a minute. So if somebody has a question for Becky, feel free to type that in the chat or unmute yourselves. Turn on your video if you're not a student and you have permission to live stream that. Anybody have any questions for Becky? We also have some answers coming in the chat with ways that you can voice your opinion besides lawn signs. And Liam H said, voting with your money and with your voice and platform. So, Shay from SMHS said, making your voice heard through petitions, protests, writing letters to local elected officials. That's a great one as well.
Mr. Rob said, from students, this is a question for you, Becky. How does CPAWS feel about the Kananaskis user fee? Do Indigenous people have to pay the fee?
Yeah, that's a great question. That's something that happened this week that's very related to parks. So Indigenous people do not have to pay the user fee. They are also exempt from paying the new Crown Land camping fee as well. You know, we have mixed feelings about the user fee. We acknowledge the reality of the increased visitation to Kananaskis and the pressure that puts both on parks, park staff, the system, the environment. We totally get that. And it's like kind of at a point where it's coming to a head and something needs to be done about it. It just needs to be guaranteed that the money is being spent on conservation in Kananaskis and, you know, longer term solutions that aren't just band-aids. Like hiring more staff is what they're doing with this money immediately, which is great. But, you know, maybe some long-term visitor management planning that they do in the national parks. They haven't done that yet for areas like Kananaskis. I think that'd be a great way to spend the money. And also, like, it should be noted that Kananaskis is a mixed use area. So it's not just one park. It has public land in it, within the borders of Kananaskis as well. And on that public land, there's currently a lot of industrial activity, including really intensive forestry and logging. And I would be really interested to, if we're now paying this conservation fee in Kananaskis, how that industrial activity is going to be allowed to continue. I think it's a very interesting question. It's a really complicated issue.
Yeah. So just kind of tune into where the money's going and ask questions is kind of something that Becky just chimed in with there. Thank you so much, Becky. So I'm going to assign everyone to breakout rooms. We're going to be talking about when voting is not an option, what are other ways besides lawn signs that you can get your voices known, aka how can you elevate your youth voice?
Mallory, do you think it'd be better, just because we're running out of time, just to go to the next one? Because we already have a lot of answers in chat.
Sure. Yeah, let's do that. So do you want to give Michelle's introduction then?
Yeah. Also, I'm just going to add, Linda said maybe the money could go towards fixing the Smith-Dorian Trail. That's interesting. Just a special trail to your class, I'm assuming.
And Ben, we also had Thomas chiming in and say, will the user fee block lower income individuals from visiting these places? But back on topic, we're going to pass the mic over to Michelle Holland. I'll let you start with her introduction.
Yeah. So thank you again, Becky, for talking. So Michelle Holland is a youth leadership specialist with the Wild Outside program from the Canadian Wildlife Federation. She's passionate about land conservation and building up our communities in a sustainable way, with a lot of experience in environmental education, as well as field work doing land stewardship. She continues to work with our communities to help connect people with their landscape. So welcome, Michelle, to the Youth Network.
Awesome, thank you. And then I'm just going to share my slide here if the presentation is done. Just a second here. All right. Everyone can see that okay?
Yeah, it's great.
Perfect. Yeah, so today we're going to talk a little bit more about land stewardship and partnerships as it directly relates to the Wild Outside program that I work with. So I just wanted to quickly introduce myself. So like Benjamin mentioned, my name is Michelle Holland. My pronouns are she and her. And I work with the Canadian Wildlife Federation as a youth leadership specialist. I'm here in Edmonton, so greetings from Treaty 6 territory. But don't worry, the program's also in Calgary. And I bring about 9 years of environmental education experience working with governments and nonprofits. So just a little bit about me before we kind of hit the ground running. So just in case you're not familiar with Canadian Wildlife Federation, or CWF as you'll hear me refer to it from here on out, is Canada's largest non-government conservation organization. And it uses a very cooperative approach with working with people, corporations, non-government organizations, and governments to inspire collaboration to achieve wildlife conservation. Now, underneath that is a fairly new program in Canada called Wild Outside. We're only about a year or so old. And this is a conservation-based youth leadership program for ages 15 to 18. So I'm sure a lot of you fit within that age range. We are in 14 cities across Canada now, which is super exciting. Here in Alberta, we have teams in Calgary and in Edmonton. And we get to do lots of awesome conservation projects, but also have a chance to just hang out outdoors and to have some outdoor recreation opportunities as well. So I'll show you a little bit about what that actually looks like in person. So land stewardship, this is a large part of what the Wild Outside program is doing. And what we actually term as service projects, where basically we're giving back to our environment and to our communities. So stewardship is simply when we're giving back, or when we're doing work towards something that we care about. So you can steward a lot of different things. Land-based stewardship means that we're talking about our environment and our land. Activism is definitely a part of this, and it can be a way to bring about change in the environment in a way that we want to bring about a positive change. So simply seeing people doing stewardship can be a form of activism and can definitely inspire. I don't know about you, but I see people like picking up litter on the side of the road. I'm like, those people, I want to be like those people. So that's what we're kind of talking about here a little bit as well. And all of these activities are really driven by the interests of youth. So at the beginning, of course, us leaders were leading the way, but as our youth get more and more involved and want to take on more leadership roles, they're definitely bringing ideas to the table, and then we find the partnerships to make it happen. So if people are seeing things that are happening in their communities that they want to be a part of, or a brand new idea, both are things that we can roll with. So some examples of some land stewardship, these are all from our not just some free photos off the internet. So starting from the bottom left there, we're doing some barbed wire removal. So fairly new photo. Pulling invasive plants. That was just last year. Pulling some area. Just this past weekend, so I didn't get to update that photo, but those are some examples of what the land-based stewardship that we're doing looks like. All right. Yes, I just got a notification that my internet is being a little glitchy on me.
It sounds like it's better right now, so.
Okay, yeah, it usually does.
It's better right now, so keep going.
Perfect. All right, so I mentioned that we work a lot with our community partners. So most of the outdoor activities that we're doing are thanks to partnerships. Almost all of our land-based stewardship work and a huge majority of our outdoor recreation work is also all based around partnerships. So basically, if you're looking to get involved in stewardship in any form, this is a really good place to start, is to look for other people doing similar things that you're passionate about. And the nice thing is that they already have ideas and things that can help fit your needs as well. So this is a good way to start if you're just getting off the ground. Supporting community and organizations that help that need help from others, and then they can help support you. So if you're supporting like a smaller community group, chances are they need your help. So you can kind of start this two-way street. We can also share a lot of ideas, resources, and your skills and passions when you get to work with partners. And it increases how many people you can actually reach. So we all have kind of our circle of people, but then as soon as you reach out to a partner, your circle all of a sudden gets a lot bigger. It can also be a great way to network and also just and actually where I got into my career as well was all from volunteer work and stewardship. All right, so you're looking to connect with partners, look for organizations who speak to you, so their interests, passions, and how they want to take action. You can go to their events, so if they have public education events, they have volunteering opportunities, that can be a great chance to connect with them, writing professional emails, calling for chats or coffee chats. But make sure it's a two-way street. If you're looking to partner with any sort of land-based stewardship or activism, a two-way street is where you're probably going to get the best results. If you're asking for something, try to find a way where you can also support the organization or the person to make sure that you guys can both meet your goals. Communication is key. Keep it prompt and clear and professional, and try to develop a trust and respect amongst them as well. So these are just some nice quick tips of how to stay connected with our partners that really anybody can do. And lastly, I'm just going to mention, if you want to connect with CWF in particular, so if you want to basically have a bit of a partnership in that regard, the Wild Outside program in Alberta, we're still actively taking on registrants. It is filling up incredibly fast now that summer is fast approaching. If you are nearing the end of your high school time or thinking about university, there's also the Canadian Conservation Corps, which is a bit more of a full-time program for 18 to 30-year-olds. Highly, highly recommend if you're looking to get into a career in conservation. You can also do citizen science, so using apps like iNaturalist, which is a free app on Android and iOS that CWF runs here in Canada. And City Nature Challenges starts on this Friday, which is yes, I'm going to I'll drop all the links in there at the end. But the City Nature Challenge starts this Friday. It's a huge bio blitz on iNaturalist that's happening, so that's a cool one to be a part of. Just even being able to learn and explore and see what other stewardship opportunities are on there. Of course, we're in the social media game as well, so one for Wild Outside and for CWF. And then you can also take part in seasonal CWF opportunities. So right now, CWF has their Planting Seeds for Wildlife initiative, where you can take a pledge and even get some free flower seeds that you can plant as well. So that are ones that are safe to plant as well, not like the ones on the Cheerio boxes that you don't know what you're getting. So these are some safe flowers that you can plant. So those are just some ways that the organization that I work is helping you connect to land-based stewardship if you like. And yeah, I'll make sure I put in links for all of those resources as well for everyone.
Great. Thank you so much for joining us and sharing us what land stewardship means, Michelle from Wild Outside and CWF. Alex, if you just want to click back on our main slides, I'm going to pop that question that she asked up onto the screen, just so that we have enough time for Carla Bitz's presentation from the town of Banff. I'm just going to invite you all to think of an organization in your community and type it in the chat. And guess what? You have the benefit of the internet on your side. So if you can't think of a nonprofit or an environmental organization or a land stewardship organization, you can always use the internet. Or I'll give you another hint. Think of the two presenters that we've had here today. Those are a couple land-based organizations that you could work with. While Michelle Holland is putting in those links, do we have any other people that might think of a community organization in their community? It could be a watershed organization. It could be a naturalist organization. maybe a recreation group that gets out and works on the trails in their community. I'll give you a little bit more time and I will pass the mic over to Ben, who is going to introduce our next speaker.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, let's wait for some answers. Okay, so while our final form of activism that we're going to talk about is business. So Carla Bitz is going to speak about, where's my mic on? It is great. Carla Bitz is going to speak about how businesses can be an effective mode of environmental activism. So just a little bit about her. Carla coordinated the town of Banff's zero waste initiatives, supporting the community's goal to divert 70% of waste by 2028 and send zero waste to the landfill in Banff by 2050. It's a pretty big goal. Carla's childhood growing up in Banff was the basis of her appreciation of the mountains and it's what drives her passion towards her work today. So Carla Bitz, sorry.
Get blitz all the time. It's all good. I will share my screen. All right. Hello, everybody. Can I get a thumbs up that people see my screen okay? Woohoo. All right. Thanks so much for letting me join your workshop. I don't get to do stuff that's quite this interesting every day. I do love my job, but I've been super inspired by hearing everything everyone else is up to and your insightful questions in the breakout rooms. So thanks so much. Yeah, as Ben mentioned, my name is Carla and I coordinate the town of Banff Zero Waste programs. And I'm located in Banff National Park, which is obviously a pretty popular tourism destination. And we're also a UNESCO World Heritage Site. We are also located on Treaty 7 territory. Yeah, so who here maybe just, I wanted to try to make this interactive. I know it's a bit challenging on Zoom and with screen sharing, so I can't necessarily see everyone's icons, but have people been to Banff before? I know we have people here from across Alberta, but I'm assuming a lot. If you can put your little thumbs up like symbol if you've been to Banff, that would be kind of cool. Awesome.
Okay, lots of people have been to Banff. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
Thanks, Mallory.
6, 7.
That helps.
8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and then the thumbs up are disappearing and new ones are reappearing.
Cool. Well, I'm hopeful that maybe the next time people come to Banff, you might look at us a little bit differently after hearing about our zero waste programs and maybe want to get involved. So yeah, I will speak today about how businesses in Banff are taking action on the issue of zero waste and what that looks like, and maybe how folks could encourage businesses in your community to also take action because they have a pretty powerful voice. So just a little bit before delving into the business activism component, I wanted to just talk about the big picture of the issue of waste. So can anyone, you can just write it in the chat, can anyone tell me what's in this photo, or can you see what's in this bin? If Mallory could shout it out if anyone gets it, that would be helpful because I can't see the chat.
I'll monitor.
Hummus.
We have some hummus. Yeah.
Hummus bin,
okay.
hummus.
Yes, lots of people guessed it right. So this is hummus, and I won't make you guess, but this is from a documentary called Just Eat It that I frequently get recurring nightmares from thinking about this scene in particular, because everyone would probably be surprised to know this hummus was 2 weeks away from its expiry date, meaning it was still, you still could have eaten it for 2 weeks and it would have been perfectly good to eat, and probably even then some. So this is just a little bit about the big picture of the challenge of waste we have on our hands. It can be pretty overwhelming, and for me, this hummus scene in this documentary was one of the things that got me thinking about waste, and now I find it difficult to stop thinking about it. So yeah, I would recommend watching Just Eat It. It's available on YouTube for free, I believe. It's about a couple in Vancouver who lives for 3 months off of food from dumpsters that would have otherwise been going to waste. And I wanted one more trivia question, if anyone can write in the chat. Does anyone know where this photo was maybe taken? And I'll give you a hint. It's in Banff National Park. It's a popular trailhead in Banff National Park. Any guesses coming through here?
No guesses so far.
No guesses. Okay, I'll give this one away for the sake of time. This was actually a picture taken at Johnston Canyon. And for those who don't know, this is a wolf. Obviously, you can tell the wolf has a plastic water bottle in its mouth. And there's a lot of things that are wrong with this photo. Just the idea of single-use plastics in general is something we're trying to get away from. And as well, I think Tim and Jared in their presentation spoke a lot to the relationship of humans and wildlife in the parks and how important it is that we respect wildlife. So this is one of the core reasons in Banff that we're looking to get away from creating waste. Is this is the situation we don't want to create. So coming back to kind of the town of Banff and business activism, this is the real goal. You guys have been to Banff. It's a beautiful place. I live here. It doesn't get old for me. Every day I still appreciate the beauty so much. And when we see garbage, whether that's on the trails or in other areas that we're creating as residents or businesses, we know that's something we need to get away from to keep Banff beautiful and keep it pristine and special. So the town of Banff is a really cool municipality. I'm very lucky to get to work there. Our council adopted these goals that Ben had mentioned in the intro around waste diversion, which means recycling and compost. And that's probably something that you guys are all quite familiar with. Another thing we're really trying to push for is not just around getting waste diverted, but also just stopping it from happening in the first place. So how do we actually disrupt the system and just stop creating all this junk? It's a big question, but it's an important one. And while we're getting better at recycling and composting, I'd encourage everyone on this call to also just do a little bit of a rethink. And that's kind of what this next slide is about here. Really, at the end of the day, it's all about changing our mentalities and thinking about how we stop waste from happening in the first place. And I won't go into great detail here, but again, the diagram you see on the left is what we call the waste hierarchy. And I'm pretty sure everyone took grade 4 waste in our world, where you learn about reduce, reuse, recycle, the really basic stuff. The message I'm kind of trying to drive home is focus on that reduce. That's the biggest dent we can all make. And that's what we're trying to encourage businesses to do here as well. So why should businesses care about zero waste? What we've seen kind of traditionally is a lot of focus from businesses based on profit. So in this Venn diagram, we see additional areas and businesses increasingly focusing also on people and the planet. Some of them making it more of a priority than others. But at the end of the day, most businesses at this point in time have some sort of a corporate social responsibility model that requires them to think about both the environment and their social and people responsibility. So that's really cool. And it's really awesome to see that shift in the business culture. And then how does this affect us as consumers? And I don't know about you guys, but for me, when I identify as a consumer, that makes me cringe a little bit. I don't necessarily like the word consumer. But I think we have the opportunity to flip that and make it a really positive thing. I think I saw someone say in the chat earlier with regards to Becky's question of how you can take action when you can't vote. You can vote with your dollars, and you can vote with the purchases that you make, or the purchases you don't make, and the purchases you choose not to do. And so I think what this slide, I chose the picture of an iceberg to just show that as consumers, what we see is just the tip of the iceberg. So if you use the example of getting an apple at the grocery store, you can buy that apple and you take it home, and you don't necessarily think about the water that went into growing it, the resources that were consumed, the energy and emissions that were produced in transporting it to the grocery store into your home. So all of that to say, when you choose one apple that was grown in Mexico over the one that was grown in Alberta, that's making a big difference. And we really can empower ourselves to make those choices on a day-to-day basis. This is one example of a really cool business in the Bow Valley called the Bare Minimum. This is an example of how you could vote with your dollars. They offer different eco-friendly products and alternatives to products that create waste. So I just wanted to share about that for those who are local and in the area. Would highly encourage you to check them out. So the program that I wanted to highlight that we're doing at the town of Banff is actually celebrating and recognizing businesses who are leading the way. So this is a photo of about 10 of our business champions in Banff from all sorts of different businesses. We have anyone from the Fairmont Banff Springs Hotel, which you've probably seen if you've visited Banff. They're one of our trailblazers, to Beatnik Salon, which I believe is going to be a part of the summit next week. That's their hair salon in Banff that's really focused on sustainability as well. And so this photo was right before the pandemic hit, actually last March of 2020, when we launched the program and started recognizing these businesses, when we could all get together and hug for a photo, and life was a little bit easier. But honestly, truthfully, having worked on this program for a while, this is one of my favorite programs, because ultimately we're just doing a little bit of digging and storytelling to find out what businesses are already doing around the issue of zero waste, and we're sharing it and celebrating it and letting these guys be champions. So finding ways to celebrate that in your community is a way to create some positive peer pressure and encourage businesses to do the right thing. So we've actually turned this into a formal program. If you go to our website on banffzerowastetrail.ca, you'll see this scorecard, which I'm sorry is probably in really small font, but it shows the different criteria for businesses to score high on our zero waste point scale. And you'll see we've actually put a lot of weight on the waste prevention and rethinking waste area, which includes green procurement, minimizing single-use items. We're getting close to launching a reusable container program. So businesses who are participating in those sorts of programs and going beyond just recycling and composting have a better chance at scoring higher. And here's how we've recognized them on our website as well. So I'd encourage you to check out their profiles, and the next time you're in Banff, consider going to one of these businesses and supporting them and voting with your dollars. So like I said, the impact of the program is really kind of outlined here. I won't read every single point out because I know we're short on time, but I think what I wanted to share, there's a quote from my favorite poet, Mary Oliver, at the bottom here. Pay attention, be astonished, and tell about it. And I think that the tell about it piece is what I really wanted to drive home. Again, just telling these stories about what businesses are already doing and how they're taking action really helps to elevate the issues. And so again, just for those who are in the Bow Valley, I wanted to highlight some of the organizations that are doing really fantastic work around the environment and zero waste here at the grassroots level. They're a little bit more cool than the town of Banff, so I wanted to give a plug for them, including the Biosphere. So like this fantastic conference. But another way, again, not just supporting for-profit businesses, but the nonprofit and grassroots organizations, finding out who they are, and collaborating with them and finding ways to volunteer with the work that they're doing can be really helpful ways to get involved as well.
Awesome.
And yeah.
Thank you so much, Carla. And so Carla is leading the Zero Waste Trailblazer program. And although you may not live in Banff, the idea behind having Carla is that she is elevating businesses within the Bow Valley that are being zero waste trailblazers. So that brings us to kind of our final discussion room. Alex, if you can stop your sharing, Carla, and Alex, if you can bring up the slides for the discussion question with Carla. Next slide. Next slide, Alex. So the question that we're going to get you guys to look at when you go away in the breakaway groups, I'm kind of taking Carla's question and elevating it, bringing in the land stewardship portion as well. So what is an issue that deserves more attention in your community? And how might you engage with a local business to encourage them to take a leadership role on this issue? How could you engage with a local land stewardship partner? How could you engage with a policymaker? Policymakers include politicians in your community. How could you engage with creatives or be creative with your solution? So taking everything you learned and kind of talking about an issue that deserves some attention in your community and brainstorm some ways of activism around that issue, taking what you've learned today. So I will assign those breakout groups, and on the top of each breakout room, there is a member of the Student Summit Committee assigned to it. So I'll open those rooms up, and I might have to pop a couple people around to different rooms.
Hello, everybody. It's me again. So we're now in breakout rooms yet again. We'll be back in, I think, about 5 minutes-ish. So I'll play some music. You guys can chill out, and then I'll come back when it's time to jump back into the main Zoom meeting. So yeah, about 5 minutes. Take a little break, grab a drink, do something, get a snack. It's like an intermission in a movie. Have fun. Bye. See you guys.
Anytime you can call, anytime. Lonely is as lonely was. Darkness came and drunken dance. Everything I do for you. Knowing doesn't change a thing. Going back ain't worth the pain. Everything I said, you knew it. Ask me once again if I'm alive. I guess so. Will you move a little bit top heavy? Set me up sideways. Complain that I'm unsteady. 'Cause I know and I know and I know that it's worth it. Your slow rotation like satellite. you playing the same tune? Your rhythm stuck in. So stick 'em up, stick 'em up. Surrender to. I know and I know and I know we won't falter. I don't mind being the one who tries to harmonize. To walk on a wire. Take a leap and casually come down from high. To walk on a wire. So Lord, let me because the heart wants let it play. I'll play its own games. Because the home made a home for the heart to belong into. Baby, that's on you. Baby, that's on you. Baby, that's on you. I didn't like the way that you were changing.
Your group talked about.
Yeah, so I don't have her name because it's just 2 letters right now, but one of our students from Jasper wanted to know, I guess, about single-use plastics, and especially with COVID right now, we're all kind of taking that curbside pickup for dinner, and there's a lot of plastics waste going to that. So we kind of talked about that as a problem, and one, I guess, solution that we had specifically in universities for single-use plastics was this green tray program, where I guess all the food in the
I
cafeteria.
was gonna talk because I was talking and he asked me a question.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, if you could maybe type some solutions in chat, that would be awesome.
Hello?
Yeah. Hello.
Hello.
Yeah,
Awesome.
so let's talk about the green tray program, and that's really neat. I mean, a lot of us here might be going to university next year, so that's definitely something to look into, like whether your university has a program like that. If not,
Anything
maybe.
else you guys talked about? Drop it in the chat, or would one more person like to share? How about Lucas, unless somebody else puts their hand up?
Sure, I'd be willing to talk if no one else puts their hand up. But yeah, I guess our breakout room really talks a lot about ethical pet ownership and ways to mitigate your pet's effects on the landscape. I forget who it was I was talking to. I'm sorry, I forgot their name. But in their community, there's a path they're rehabilitating that used to be a CPR rail, and they're turning it into a path. But the issue they've been noticing is that people walking along this recreational path have been throwing dog poop bags into the woods, which is very bad for the environment for a number of reasons. The plastics themselves, they don't decompose. They just break down to microplastics, and that can harm the environment. Not to mention, the actual contents of the dog poop bags, which are just gross, and no one wants to deal with that.
Lucas, did you get as far as any solutions?
Yeah, well, we were talking a lot about just making sure that like the proper method of disposing this is easily accessible, like making sure there's easily accessible trash cans and easily accessible waste disposal, because and making sure on top of that there's a bit of an education component as well.
Awesome. Well, that will have to sum it up. I'm going to pass the mic over to Ben to kind of summarize everything that we've learned today. Alex, next slide.
Great. So it's just the title slide. Yeah, so we heard from 5 different people about so many different types of activism. We had land connectivity and I guess artistic activism. We had business activism. We had policy-based activism. And I guess we had kind of land-based activism. We heard from Wild Outside, Y to Y, the Stony Dakota Audiovisual Club, Canadian Parks and Wilderness Society, and the town of Banff, which is quite an amazing day and quite amazing to get done all in one day. So we hope that you kind of found some sort of activism or some sort of project that you might be interested in. Just in the chat now, if you are interested, for example, in the disposable or reusable container program, there's some resources there.
And that kind of ties in perfectly with a plug for our upcoming summit. So Alex, I'll get you to go to the slide that says coming up next. We acknowledge that we might ramble on for a little bit because we're really excited about this. So if you do have to leave us, feel free to check out the website for details on how to sign up for the summit that is quickly approaching in 2 weeks. If you are interested in the Banff Isn't Disposable container project, Luna Kawano is going to be one of the youth speakers kicking off our summit. And we also have an action challenge on our social media Instagram, which will be dropping on May 1st, which is this Saturday. So you'll be able to tune into that. So if you haven't already followed us at Canadian Rockies Youth Network with all those weird underscores, definitely follow us. We're posting on the daily basis leading up to the summit. And I'm going to pass the mic over to Ben to tell us a little bit more about the highlights of the summit.
Yeah, so I've already talked about them a little bit at the beginning. If you have to go now, that's okay. But yeah, so we have a campfire concert night on May 12th in the evening. We'll have a lot of great musical presenters like Emily Patterson, who's going to be performing at the Salon in Banff that we were just talking about. And then on May 13th and 14th, we have a mixture of activities from panels to discussions to debates to outdoor activities. Like a citizen science workshop that we're going to be running with Inside Education. So that's all I have for now. If you want to see more about the agenda, you can check that out online. Yeah, thank you for bearing with us.
And I just dropped that in the chat for everybody. Just go to the website and scroll down and you'll see a link for the agenda and a link to sign up for the summit.
Great, yeah. And thank you for coming to the meeting. We had a couple technical difficulties, but we got through it. And we're still working on learning that stuff. So
always learning.
Thank you so much for.
And thanks again to our speakers.
Woohoo!
Yeah, I'll just jump in there and say thanks so much again for everyone. And sorry if we've had some issues, but things are going to be better. And we're so excited to see everybody at the Canadian Rockies Youth Summit. It's going to be really awesome.
And I'm just going to try drop the sign up link in the chat.
Right. I think most people are.
Yeah, probably, but yeah. Who knows?
Just in case.
Hey, hi, yeah, I want to say thank you for having me and for the AV Club. And yeah, I was just like enjoying all the incredible people actually really talking about the important things. And then it's such a good feeling and such a blessing that to have really good people around every day and to see continuing what's going on. And yes, and I just want to say thank you. And I don't see Tim anymore, but see you, Tim. Hope we'll work again. But anyway, all right, see you guys.
Thanks, Jarrett.
Thank you so much for coming. Okay.
makes me wanna leave this place. I